What's happening, guys? Today we're going to go ahead and revisit the Sonnet Breakaway Box 550 watt version. I did a review on this probably 2 years ago now, and I've decided to go ahead and do some more fun with it here since I got the my new Dell G5 which has a Thunderbolt 3 port. We can play around and do some goofing around with external GPU type stuff, especially since I got that new I got that RTX 2060 KO here the other day, a couple weeks ago I guess, where I did a video on that, and we're going to test that out. And I've got also my RTX 2070 Super, which I may do at a later date, but for now we're just going to go ahead and test like the onboard graphics, which is a GTX 1660 Ti in the laptop versus this Breakaway box, and see how the different benchmarks are what the results are. So give me 1 second here and I'll show you the Breakaway box. If you haven't already done so, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Thanks. Alright, so you can see, as again, I've done a video on this before, but for those of you who haven't seen the older video on it, it's a decent sized box. It's about the size of actually that last ITX build that I did, where I did the Lian Li TU150 ITX case. It's not quite that big, but it's probably about 80% of the size of that ITX case, so it's pretty good sized. Not necessarily practical for carrying around with you, but if you had a laptop that, for example, either didn't have a dedicated GPU or had sort of an aging or mid-range dedicated GPU, like again the one that I have in my new Dell laptop is mid-range at a 1660 Ti. So this allows you some upgradability to older or laptops, or again to laptops that have kind of a mid-range card, as long as you have a halfway decent processor in there. Like the laptop I had previously was the Alienware 13R3, a little OLED one that had like a GTX 1060 in it, and so you can test higher end GPUs with this and get some level of performance improvement. So it's a kind of a nice thing to have. It's not like I say that practical to carry around, but it sort of functions like a dock, I guess would be the way that I would put it. Like again, while you're out and about, you use the laptop as it is, but when you come home, you could hook up to this and within a few minutes be up and running with a much more powerful system, basically allowing you to game and whatnot. You can see that we've got a little grating on here, has an intake fan, or you can have it blow out, but this seems to be the best way to pull in some fresh air, because there's really no other way that this thing has to get air into it. And let me take a second here to turn this around. I don't know what that was. Oh, I think my cat knocked something over, but be right back. Alright, now I've already got a card in there because I was playing around with it before, but normally there's like a little plate that goes over here, and I just haven't bothered to put it back on there because I'm lazy, but that comes with it, a little plate there, and you've got room for up to a dual slot card. I don't think you'd fit much larger in there, like a 2.75 slot card. Like for example, that 2070 Super I got had that EVGA Ultra cooler on it, which is like 2.75 slots. I don't believe that you get anywhere near fitting that in here, but I replaced that cooler on that card with the hybrid AIO cooler. So that I've actually put, I used to have a 1080 Ti in here with an AIO cooler on it, and it fit, although it's a little bit cramped. You can mount the radiator where I had that intake fan I showed a second ago, and so you can actually fit it in there. But you got your little ITX, FSP is the brand that makes this power supply, but the little ITX 550 watt supply, and you got a little Thunderbolt 3 port here, and you use a standard power cable like you would with any desktop, or that comes with like a monitor, for example, the standard 3-pin. You get a Thunderbolt 3 cable, 40 gigabits per second. Don't need anything. Won't work with USB-C. Don't try it with USB-C, it will not work. And like I said, it does come with your standard power cable. So give me 1 second here, I'll open this up and I'll show you guys kind of the guts of this thing, and then we'll go ahead and we'll fiddle around with hooking it up to the machine. I'll show you how to do that. It's a little complicated to get it to work with Windows. Like you have to disable some hardware within the device manager to get it to work really well, but I'll show you guys how to do that here in a minute. And again, I did that in my old video, but it's been a while and some of you probably haven't seen that. So give me 1 second here and I'll show you the internals. So sorry for like the little scuffs on here. I've had that cover on on and off this thing a bunch of times and over the couple years that I've had it, so this has been scuffed up a little bit, unfortunately, at this point, but it doesn't harm the functionality of it. But as you can see, there's like this removable cage that you can mount just about any kind of fan on, so that's pretty cool. And then we, like I said, we've got the little FSP power supply down there in the bottom right hand corner. There you go. So that's from this side, and you can see from this side I've got my little RTX 2060 KO already installed. Pretty easy to do. You can just flip this up on here real quick, but you can see this power supply is kind of proprietary, and then it wouldn't work in a regular desktop because all it has is the 24-pin 12-volt to connect to the little, basically the motherboard of this system, and then it has a pair of, like, I think it has two 8-pins. Yeah, you get two 8-pin PCI Express power connections with it, so you can hook up like basically one high-end GPU, but you don't get, like I say, there's no way to hook up anything else. It's not modular. There's no other little plugs on it that allow you to hook up like SATA connections, or you couldn't plug it into there's no CPU 8-pin, for example, so you could never run a real motherboard with it. It's strictly for this system. But if you needed to swap it out, you could feasibly swap in a different ITX power supply and just not use those connections. That's my cat in the background. He's playing with his toys. He gets all grouchy this time of day. He wants to play. But there's quite a few. I think I can zoom in here and we can show you guys a little bit. Maybe, yeah, that's not doing a really good job. Here we go. You can kind of see down there, but there's room for, you can see where the fan's plugged in next to it, and then there's room for another one over here. Not really sure why you would necessarily need two fan headers in here, unless maybe you were going to do like push-pull on a radiator or something like that. Like I said, you can mount a radiator to this, and maybe if you want to do push-pull with your radiator, you could do that, and that way you'd be allowed to have, you know, a couple fans down there. There's other random headers on here. I'm not even 100% sure what half of them are for, and the instructions don't tell you, so I couldn't really tell you for certain. Like, for example, let me go over here. I don't know what that is. No idea. Doesn't tell you anywhere. I could probably find out online. And then there's some other like little 3 pins down there, like you can see, like 2 pins and 3 pins that look kind of like they're for connecting fans that work with like the GPU, for example. Like a lot of GPU fans have little connections like that that run right to the PCB of the video card and then allow you to control it from your GPU software. So I don't know if you could conceivably take like the fan off of your heatsink and fan from this, just for example, and then connect it up to this instead, or necessarily why you would want to. Again, I'm not sure, but it does look like it gives you the option to hook up a lot of things that maybe you don't necessarily need from it. I've never screwed with a lot of that stuff. I just strictly hooked up the basics that you need here. But you can see that's how you would use it. That's how you can hook everything up to it. And they got a little power thing here that is for the power. It's for the lighting. That's what it's for. There's like a little blue light up in the front. Sorry. This little Sonnet S-curve will light up when it's powered on. But that said here, I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys how to connect this thing up to the laptop and how to get it to work. So give me 1 second. Alright, so I've got my laptop booted up here, and I'm going to show you how to disable the PCI Express controller that handles the GTX 1660 Ti. The reason you want to do that is you only have a certain number of PCI Express lanes from your CPU, and if you try to run the GTX 1660 Ti along with your RTX 2060 or whatever card it is that you want to run in your external graphics enclosure, you will not have enough system resources and you will be boned. And so if you try to hook up the eGPU, I don't remember how it goes, but usually it'll tell you like you just don't have enough resources, or it won't work, or you might get an error message or something. I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. We're going to show you how to do this correctly. So first you're going to go into your device manager and you click on view, and you're going to tell it to show hidden devices. If you don't do that, you won't be able to see some of these controllers because they don't really want you to mess with this stuff. But tell it show hidden devices. Then you want to view devices by connection. That will change the way that it lays it out. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start here at the beginning. But for what I want to do here, I want to go into my ACPI x64 based PC. And I'm going to scroll down here. And it was under PCI Express root complex. And then for this one, it was under Give me 1 second. I found it here before. 1 second. There's so many of these damn things you can expand out. There it is. It's 1901. It's Intel PCI Express controller X16 1901. So that's the controller that handles the X16 slot that handles the GPU. You can see we've got in here our NVIDIA GTX 1660 Ti, and we'd like to shut that shit off. So I'm going to tell it to disable that controller. And of course it's going to tell me that disabling will cause it to stop functioning, which is the desired outcome here. And once I do that, we should immediately lose our 1660 Ti. So I'm going to go into, yep, you see, NVIDIA control panel is gone. That means that it can no longer detect that GPU as being, you know, a live device. Let's see what happens if I go into GPU Z. That should be another way to indicate that we've shut off that card. It shouldn't even be able to read that card. Pardon the fan kicking up on this thing. I've got to set it to do that, or this thing just runs too hot. Let me turn this down a little bit here. But you can see in the menu here, it is not even giving me the option to select the 1660 Ti. The only thing it detects, which is running this, currently the display on these laptops always runs off the IGP, and then it switches to using the dedicated card when you play games. But for handling standard Windows activities, it'll use the Intel integrated card. So we shut off our 1660 Ti. Next thing I need to do is shut the machine down, and then I can hook up my Sonnet box, because they have to start up at the same time. So I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to hook up the Sonnet box, and I will show you that in operation. Give me 1 moment. Alright, I got everything else plugged in. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my Thunderbolt cable in the side of the laptop there. I didn't bother to hold on a second here. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the shroud off from this thing. I don't think it's going to matter too much. But anyways, when I power it up, they will power up together. This will light up in blue, and we'll be ready to go here in just a second. Turn the switch back on to the power supply. I always shut that sort of thing off initially. Alright, so like I say here, when I power this thing on, it should come on together. Fan kicked on, light has turned on. Let's see what we get here. Now, for some reason I'm getting this stupid frickin' message about, hold on, it's too light, about how I've attached a power adapter that does not accept power, because this thing can be used for some laptops, like it'll give additional power to the system, so like the system will run off of this instead. I'm not sure if that's an option, like if I unplug the AC adapter on the laptop, but I'm not going to do that. And actually, I don't think it is. It says right on there that that port doesn't accept power, but some laptops will let you run the laptop, I believe, off the Thunderbolt 3 power, and you can do it through this connection. But again, we're not going to do that. We don't need to do that, so we're just going to tell it to continue. But otherwise, you can get into the BIOS here. I haven't found an option in the BIOS to disable that message, so I don't really know if you can shut it off or not. But give it a second here, and we'll get into Windows, and I'll show you that it's working. Alright, so we're into Windows, and RTX 2060 is now available. And as you can see, now the downside is it runs at 4x. It will not run any faster than that. That's a limitation of running it over Thunderbolt 3. I believe it's 10 gigabits per second per PCI Express lane, so at 40 gigabits per second, you get a total of 4 lanes. I would like to see them someday make a Thunderbolt 3 port, or maybe it'll be Gen 4, I guess, but that'll run at 8 lanes, and then eGPUs would be pretty freaking good at that point. You're still gonna have some latency over it, but as I'll be able to demonstrate for you here in a minute, it'll do a pretty good job. It beats the internal card on this laptop. I've already tested it before. That's why I know that it'll do a better job. One nice thing too, I don't know if I've got Precision X running. I guess I don't. I was gonna say though, like one nice advantage to doing this as well, to shutting off the internal GPU and using an external one, is all the heat is kept outside of the laptop. So this thing runs pretty hot already. The CPU runs pretty warm, and then you've got the GPU apparently is on the same heatsink pipe more or less as the CPU is. It's just that like they each have a fan on the ups, one's on one side of the machine, one's on the other side of the machine, but aside from that, they're running off the same copper pretty much. Or whatever the hell they make the heatsink out of them. They painted it blue, so I don't know what the material is. But regardless, this way instead, I've got, my laptop is not heating up so much from the GPU, only the CPU will be heating up the internal, and then the GPU sits outside and doesn't add heat to the system that's already too freaking hot as it is. But anyways, next up here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll run a benchmark, and then I'll shut this down, and then we'll do it without the Sonnet card, or the the RTX 2060, and we'll compare our scores. So give me 1 minute here. I gotta load up 3D Mark, and we'll see how that goes. All right, I got Time Spy here ready to go. So we're gonna give that a shot, and then like I said, we'll do it again with the onboard 1660 Ti, and we'll make a comparison. Give it a minute here. It takes about 7 minutes. Man, I don't remember how long. 5-7 minutes for this whole benchmark to run through. So I'll be back here in a minute once the results are available. All right, you can see we got a final score of 6323 with a graphics score of 6352 and a CPU score of 6169. Graphics test on the first one got around 41 frames a second. The second graphics test got about 37 frames a second. So next thing up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back into my device manager. And actually, what I have to do is first shut down, disconnect this, boot back up, go back in the device manager, re-enable the PCI Express controller, and probably reboot one more time, and then it should go back to utilizing the 1660 Ti. So I guess first of all, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to shut down and disconnect the RTX 2060 in the external graphics enclosure. So let's do that. Alright, so I'm back into my machine. I've disconnected my external graphics enclosure, my Sonnet box with the 2060 in it, and I'm going to go ahead and reverse the process to hopefully regain our RTX or our GTX 1660 Ti. So once again, we went ahead and we did our show hidden devices and view by connection, and it should be more obvious because it'll still be shut off. Let's see. Or maybe I'm spaced out. Here it is. Okay, so you can see there it's showing a little down arrow on here, indicates that this has been disabled. I would like to enable that device, which will take it just a moment, but that should be done. And momentarily here, I have to reboot this before leaving. Straighten up. Yeah, hold on a second, I'll be right back. Alrighty, we have regained our NVIDIA control panel, which actually I probably have to reboot. I don't know, we'll see if it worked or not. Alright, and you can see there it's reading once again a GTX 1660 Ti. So we've regained our onboard GPU, and we've disabled / disconnected our RTX 2060. So the next thing to do will be what we did just a minute ago, which is to go back in and run Time Spy using the onboard GPU instead of the external GPU. So I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll see what the results are. Alright, so this time we've got a score of 5518, so it's a difference of like 800 points. The graphics score is 5427, whereas last time it was like 6335, I think. And the average frame per second in the first test was 35.18 and 31.27 in the second graphics test. So definitely an improvement, using the external card. And there again, that's that card's being hamstrung because it's only getting 4 lanes, and it has latency because it has to talk over the PCI. It has to talk over the Thunderbolt 3 cable versus a GPU that's embedded right into the board. So there's latency to deal with. It's getting less lanes, and it's still scored significantly higher. Now, granted, that's a desktop card, and this is a laptop card. And although I'm pretty certain that this is a standard 1660 Ti. On the Best Buy website, when I ordered this, it said it's the Max Q. But all the clock speeds that I've found associated with the card from within Windows indicate that this is a full 1660 Ti, mobile edition card. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's the standard 1660 Ti So that's a pretty good improvement to go to just an RTX. Like, this is the weakest 2060 that there is, as far as I know. It's like I believe that they're like a chopped down version of an RTX 2080, like that had problems, and so instead of just throwing out you know, the different cards that they had, they disabled the cores that were bad, and they used them as this RTX 2060 KO version of the card. But it's not even, you know, it's not a super. It's like a standard RTX 2060. I guess I don't really know 100% how they compare with other standard RTX 2060s, so whatever. But it's basically the weakest RTX line that you can get, and yet it still did a fair deal better than that. And of course, you get some ray tracing this way. So if you wanted at home to play RTX Minecraft Edition, for example, you'd be able to do that. Although how well, I haven't tested this card yet for that yet, so it may not do a great job at. I mean, 1080p would probably do okay, but you get some ray tracing, you get some tensor cores, so you can do DLSS in games that support it. So you get some you know, some advantages to doing this. And of course, if you wanted to, you could always use a better card, like like the 2070 Super. I may try to put my 2080 Ti in this thing and see if that'll work. I think it may fit, because actually the Sonnet box is taller than I thought it was. Like, I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here, but you can see, I mean, there's quite a bit of room for height, and I should be able to mount the radiator I have on the thing over here if I wanted to try to do that, to see how well, you know, a 2080 Ti would run with this thing. I'm pretty sure that it would be heavily, you know, kneecapped by the, again, by having to use the Thunderbolt 3 cable and only getting 4 lanes, and the CPU on this laptop is probably going to bottleneck it a bit. Maybe, probably, yeah. So, I mean, a few things I can play around with, and we can get some other benchmarks. I'd like to get my hands on an AMD 5700 XT, because supposedly with some of their more recent drivers, they've done away with at least the problems that they were having, theoretically, with all the black screening and Wattman crashes. I had that 5700 XT MSI Mech Edition card that I ended up having to return to the store because it had so many problems, but supposedly they resolved a lot of that stuff. I'm hoping that when this whole COVID-19 shit ends, my sponsor, Custom Bytes, when they open back up for regular business, I can get them to loan me, you know, some different newer cards. I'd like to actually take a standard desktop 1660 Ti and see how well it compares in the external enclosure versus this onboard 1660 Ti. That'd be kind of an interesting test. It'd probably be very marginal, but again, it'd be interesting to try it out. But I think that's a good point for us to end the video today. So if there's anybody that has any questions, please ask them in the comment section below. Please give the video a thumbs up if you like this kind of content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you really want to, maybe you could share the video with your friends if you think they'd be interested in this kind of thing. Maybe share it on your social media. But thanks again for watching, and I'll do some other benchmarks here soon. In the future, I'll try to do the RTX 2070 Super in here next. Thanks. Have a great one. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.